The morning sun barely peeked through the tall windows of Romano's cafe as Maya hurried to prepare for another busy day. She had been working at this small coffee shop in downtown Chicago for 8 months now, ever since she moved from her quiet hometown in Ohio. The cafe was nothing fancy, just a cozy place with mismatched furniture and the constant hum of the espresso machine. But it paid her bills while she attended night classes at the community college. Maya tied her apron around her waist and checked the clock. 6:30 in the morning meant she had exactly 30 minutes before the first wave of customers would storm through the door, demanding their daily dose of caffeine. She moved with practiced efficiency, grinding beans, checking the pastry display, and wiping down tables that were already clean. The bell above the door chimed, announcing the first customer of the day. Maya looked up from behind the counter, expecting to see Mrs. Peterson, the elderly woman who came in every morning for her decaf latte. Instead, she found herself staring at a man she had never seen before. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair slicked back and wearing an expensive black suit that looked like it cost more than Maya made in 3 months. His shoes were polished to perfection. And when he moved, there was something about his presence that seemed to command the entire room. But it was his eyes that caught Maya's attention. Dark, intense, and scanning the cafe as if he was looking for threats, rather than just ordering coffee. "Good morning," Maya said cheerfully, trying to ignore the strange feeling in her stomach. "What can I get you today?" The man approached the counter slowly, his footsteps making no sound despite his heavy appearance. When he spoke, his voice was deep and carried a slight accent that Maya couldn't quite place. "Espresso. Double shot. No sugar." Maya nodded and turned to the machine. As she worked, she could feel his eyes watching her every movement. The silence stretched uncomfortably, broken only by the hiss of steam and the grinding of coffee beans. She had served hundreds of customers, but none had ever made her feel so nervous just by standing there. When she handed him the small cup, their fingers brushed for just a moment. His skin was surprisingly warm, and Maya felt a jolt of electricity run up her arm. She quickly pulled her hand back, her cheeks flushing pink. "That'll be $3.50, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man pulled out a crisp $100 bill and placed it on the counter. Maya stared at it for a moment, then looked up at him with wide eyes. "I don't have change for this," she said apologetically. "Keep it," he replied simply, taking a sip of his espresso. Maya's mouth fell open. "A $96 tip for a $3 coffee?" She started to protest, but the man was already walking away, choosing a table in the far corner where he could see both the front door and the back exit. Maya watched him go, her heart still racing for reasons she couldn't understand. Throughout the morning, the cafe filled with its usual crowd of office workers, students, and retirees. Maya served them all with her typical friendly smile, but she found her eyes constantly drifting to the corner table. The mysterious man sat there for over an hour, barely touching his espresso, his attention focused on his phone and the occasional glance toward the windows. Around 8:30, 2 more men entered the cafe. They were also well-dressed, but something about them set off alarm bells in Maya's head. They didn't look at the menu board or approach the counter. Instead, they walked straight to the corner table and sat down with the first man. Maya tried not to stare, but she couldn't help noticing how the 3 men leaned in close to each other, speaking in hushed tones. One of them kept checking his watch, while the other seemed agitated, his hands moving as he talked. The original customer, the one who had tipped her so generously, remained calm, listening more than speaking. But there was something about his stillness that seemed dangerous. "Maya, you're burning the milk," called out her coworker Jenny, who had arrived for the mid-morning shift. Maya snapped back to attention, quickly adjusting the steam wand. "Sorry. Just distracted." "By tall, dark, and mysterious over there?" Jenny grinned, nodding toward the corner table. "He's been watching you all morning, you know." "He has not," Maya protested. But even as she said it, she glanced over and caught him looking directly at her. This time, instead of looking away, he held her gaze for a long moment before returning to his conversation. Jenny raised an eyebrow. "Honey, That man is definitely interested. And judging by that suit and those shoes, he's got money too. Maya shook her head. I'm not looking for a relationship, especially not with someone like him. Someone like what? Maya struggled to put her feelings into words. I don't know. He just seems dangerous. Like he's not what he appears to be. Before Jenny could respond, the three men stood up and prepared to leave. The original customer walked to the counter while his companions headed for the door. Maya's heart started racing again as he approached. Thank you for the excellent coffee, he said, his dark eyes studying her face. What's your name? Maya hesitated for a moment. Something told her that giving him her name might change everything, but she found herself answering anyway. Maya. Maya, he repeated, as if testing how it sounded. A beautiful name for a beautiful woman. Maya felt her cheeks burn red. Thank you, she whispered. He leaned slightly closer, and Maya caught a whiff of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Something that reminded her of leather and smoke. I'll see you tomorrow, Maya. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, spoken with such certainty that Maya found herself nodding, even though she hadn't meant to agree to anything. The man smiled for the first time since entering the cafe, revealing perfect white teeth that somehow made him look even more dangerous. After he left, Maya stood behind the counter in a daze. Jenny waved a hand in front of her face. Earth to Maya. What just happened? I think I just met someone who's going to turn my life upside down, Maya murmured, still staring at the door where he had disappeared. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maya went through the motions of serving customers and cleaning tables, but her mind kept returning to the mysterious man and his promise to return tomorrow. She found herself wondering who he was, what he did for work, and why he had chosen Romano's Cafe out of all the coffee shops in Chicago. That evening, as Maya locked up the cafe, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, but she had the unsettling feeling that someone was watching her. She hurried to her beat-up Honda Civic and drove home to her small studio apartment, checking her rearview mirror more often than usual. As she lay in bed that night, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that her quiet, predictable life was about to change forever. She thought about the man's intense eyes, his expensive clothes, and the way his two companions had deferred to him without question. Most of all, she thought about his promise to return tomorrow, and the strange mixture of fear and excitement it had stirred in her chest. Maya had always been a careful person, someone who planned every decision and avoided unnecessary risks. But something about this stranger had awakened a part of her she didn't know existed, a part that was curious about danger and drawn to the unknown. As sleep finally claimed her, Maya found herself both dreading and eagerly anticipating what tomorrow might bring. She had no idea that her life was about to collide with a world she never knew existed, a world of power, danger, and secrets that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself and the choices she was capable of making. The discovery of truth. Maya arrived at Romano's Cafe earlier than usual the next morning, her stomach twisted in nervous knots. She had barely slept, spending most of the night thinking about the mysterious stranger and his promise to return. Part of her hoped he wouldn't show up, while another part of her, a part she was trying to ignore, was disappointed by that thought. The morning routine felt different today. Every sound made her look up, hopefully or fearfully. She wasn't sure which. When the bell chimed at 7:15, Maya's heart jumped, but it was only Mrs. Peterson with her usual order. You seem distracted today, dear, the elderly woman observed as Maya prepared her decaf latte. Everything all right? Just tired, Maya lied, forcing a smile. Mrs. Peterson studied her with kind but knowing eyes. Be careful with men who seem too good to be true, sweetheart. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're something else entirely. Maya's hands froze as she handed over the cup. What do you mean? I've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, Mrs. Peterson said quietly. I see things. I notice patterns. That man who was here yesterday. He's not like the others who come in here. Before Maya could ask what she meant, Mrs. Peterson had already settled at her usual table by the window. Maya watched her go, wondering how much the old woman had observed, and what she might know that Maya didn't. At exactly 8 o'clock, the door chimed again. This time, it was him. He looked different today. Still impeccably dressed, but in a dark navy suit instead of black. His hair was styled the same way, and those intense dark eyes immediately found Maya behind the counter. But today, he wasn't alone. A woman walked beside him, elegant and beautiful, in a way that made Maya suddenly conscious of her simple uniform and messy ponytail. Maya's heart sank. Of course, someone like him would have a girlfriend or wife. She had been foolish to think his attention meant anything. The woman was tall and sophisticated, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and her makeup looked like it had been done by a professional. When she smiled, it was the kind of smile that belonged on magazine covers. Maya watched them approach the counter, telling herself she didn't care, that she had known this was too good to be true. But when the man looked directly at her, she saw something in his expression that confused her. An apology, maybe, or regret. "Good morning, Maya," he said in that same deep voice that had haunted her dreams. "Good morning," Maya replied, proud of how steady her voice sounded. "What can I get you both today?" The woman spoke first, her voice carrying a slight Italian accent. "I'll have a cappuccino with an extra shot. And Marco will have his usual double espresso." Marco. So, that was his name. Maya nodded and turned to the machine, grateful for something to focus on other than the perfect couple standing at her counter. As she worked, she could hear them talking quietly in what sounded like Italian, their voices too low for her to understand, even if she spoke the language. When Maya turned back with their drinks, she found Marco watching her with that same intense stare from yesterday. The woman, who Maya assumed was his girlfriend, was checking her phone and seemed uninterested in Maya or the cafe in general. "That'll be $7, Maya said, avoiding Marco's eyes. The woman handed over exact change without looking up from her phone. "Marco, we need to go. The meeting is in 20 minutes. "Of course," Marco replied, but he didn't move immediately. Instead, he leaned slightly closer to the counter. "Maya, could I speak with you for a moment? Privately?" Maya glanced at the woman, who was now looking at her with sharp, calculating eyes. "I'm working," Maya said carefully. "It will only take a minute," Marco insisted. Something in his tone made it sound more like a command than a request. Maya looked around the cafe. It was still early, with only Mrs. Peterson and a young man typing on his laptop occupying tables. Jenny wouldn't arrive for another hour. Against her better judgment, Maya nodded and came around from behind the counter. Marco led her toward the back of the cafe, near the storage room where they couldn't be easily overheard. The woman stayed at the counter, but Maya could feel her watching them intently. "Who is she?" Maya asked before Marco could speak. "Isabella is my business partner," Marco said carefully. "What we discussed yesterday, about seeing you again, it's complicated." Maya crossed her arms. "What kind of business are you in?" Marco was quiet for a long moment, studying her face as if trying to decide something important. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, more serious. "Import and export," he said finally. "Family business. What do you import and export?" "Various things." "Look, Maya, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What? Have you noticed anything unusual lately? People watching the cafe? Strange phone calls? Anyone asking questions about the customers who come here?" "No," Maya said quickly. But then she remembered the black sedan from the night before. Why would anyone be watching the cafe? Marco's expression darkened. "Because sometimes people want to know things about my business that they shouldn't know. Maya took a step back. What are you saying? Are you in some kind of trouble? Not trouble exactly, Marco said. But my work involves people who prefer privacy. People who don't like questions. Not. Maya's mind raced, putting together pieces of a puzzle she didn't want to solve. The expensive clothes, the way his companions had deferred to him, the cash tips, the watching eyes, and now talk of people who preferred privacy. You're not just talking about importing coffee beans, are you? She whispered. Marco looked at her for a long moment, and Maya saw something shift in his expression. A decision being made. No, he said quietly. Maya felt the world tilt slightly. She had grown up watching movies about organized crime, reading books about the Mafia, but she had never imagined she would actually meet someone from that world. Yet here she was, standing in the back of a small cafe in Chicago, talking to a man who had just confirmed her worst suspicions. I should go, Maya said, taking another step back. Marco reached out and gently caught her arm. His touch was firm but not threatening. Maya, wait. I know how this sounds, but I need you to listen to me. Let go of me, Maya said. But she didn't try to pull away. The reason I'm telling you this is because I think you might be in danger, Marco continued. There are people who know I've been coming here. They might try to use you to get to me. Maya felt her knees go weak. What kind of danger? The kind where you need to be very careful about who you trust and where you go, Marco said seriously. I didn't want this to involve you. But it already has. From across the cafe, Isabella called out in Italian. Marco responded quickly, then looked back at Maya. I have to go now, but I'll be back tonight after you close. We need to talk more about how to keep you safe. I don't want your protection, Maya said, finding her voice again. I just want my normal life back. Marco's expression softened slightly. I know. And I'm sorry. But normal ended the moment you made that coffee yesterday. He started to walk away, then turned back. Maya, promise me something. Don't go home alone tonight. Stay here until I come back, or go somewhere public with lots of people. And if anyone approaches you asking questions about me or the cafe, don't answer them. Call this number immediately. He pressed a business card into her hand. Maya looked down at it. There was no company name. Just a phone number printed in simple black text. Promise me, Marco said again, his voice urgent. Maya nodded, too stunned to do anything else. She watched as Marco rejoined Isabella at the counter. The woman looked at Maya with cold, assessing eyes, said something sharp to Marco in Italian, then headed for the door. Marco followed, but not before giving Maya one last long look that seemed to say both, I'm sorry, and be careful. After they left, Maya stood in the back of the cafe for several minutes, staring at the business card in her hand. Her mind was reeling with everything Marco had told her and everything he hadn't said. She thought about Mrs. Peterson's warning and wondered how much the elderly woman really knew about the neighborhood and its visitors. Maya walked back to the counter on unsteady legs. The cafe suddenly felt different. Not like the safe, familiar workplace she had known for 8 months, but like a stage where dangerous people played games with rules she didn't understand. The bell chimed again. And Maya looked up, hopefully, thinking Marco might have returned to explain more. Instead, she saw a man she had never seen before. He was younger than Marco, with light brown hair and a casual smile, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. He looked normal, harmless, like any other customer, but as he approached the counter, Maya noticed his eyes were constantly moving, taking in every detail of the cafe, just like Marco's had done yesterday. And when he smiled at her, it didn't reach his eyes at all. Good morning, he said cheerfully. I hear you make excellent coffee here. Maya forced herself to smile back, but her hand was already moving toward the phone to call the number on Marco's card. Whatever game was being played, she was now right in the middle of it, whether she wanted to be or not. Number, the choice that changed everything. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she held the coffee cup. staring at the stranger who had just walked into the cafe. Something about his smile made her skin crawl, and she found herself thinking about Marco's warning about people asking questions. "What kind of coffee would you like?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Actually, I'm more interested in talking than drinking coffee," the man said, his fake smile never wavering. "I understand you've had some interesting customers lately." Maya's heart started pounding. This was exactly what Marco had warned her about. She glanced around the cafe. Mrs. Peterson was still at her table, and the young man with the laptop was focused on his screen. Neither of them looked like they could help if something went wrong. "I serve a lot of customers," Maya said carefully. "Is there something specific you need?" "So." The man leaned against the counter, getting closer than Maya was comfortable with. "I'm particularly interested in a gentleman who's been coming in the last couple of days. Dark hair, expensive suit, probably doesn't smile much." Maya's mouth went dry. "I don't know who you mean." "Come on, Maya," the man said, and her blood turned to ice when he used her name. "I know he's been here. I know he's been talking to you. I just need to know what he said." Maya's hand moved slowly toward her pocket, where Marco's card was hidden. "I think you should leave." The man's expression hardened, and for a moment, his mask slipped completely. Maya saw something cold and dangerous underneath his casual appearance. "I don't think you understand the situation you're in," he said quietly. "Marco Santangelo is a very dangerous man. You have no idea what kind of people you're dealing with." "I don't know anyone by that name," Maya lied, but hearing Marco's full name made everything feel more real and more frightening. The man reached into his jacket, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a badge and showed it to her quickly before putting it away. "FBI," he said. "Agent Davis. We've been watching Mr. Santangelo for months. If he's been coming here, then this cafe is now part of an ongoing investigation." Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. FBI? Marco wasn't just involved in some vague criminal activity. He was being investigated by federal agents. "I haven't done anything wrong," Maya whispered. "Not yet," Agent Davis said. "But if you continue to protect him or refuse to cooperate with our investigation, that could change very quickly." Maya looked around the cafe again, hoping someone would notice that something was wrong. But Mrs. Peterson was reading her newspaper, and the laptop customer was wearing headphones. "What do you want from me?" Maya asked. "Information," Agent Davis said simply. "What did he tell you? Did he mention any names, any locations, any plans? Has he asked you to do anything for him?" Maya thought about Marco's warning to be careful who she trusted. How did she know this man was really FBI? Anyone could buy a fake badge. And even if he was telling the truth, why should she trust the FBI over Marco? "He just ordered coffee," Maya said finally. "We didn't really talk." Agent Davis studied her face carefully. "Maya, I can see you're scared, and you should be. Marco Santangelo is the heir to one of the most powerful crime families in Chicago. He's not some romantic figure from a movie. He's a real criminal who hurts real people. If you protect him, you become an accomplice." "I'm not protecting anyone," Maya said, her voice getting stronger. "I just serve coffee." Agent Davis sighed and pulled out a business card. "Here's my number. When you're ready to tell the truth, call me. But don't wait too long. People who get involved with the Santangelo family have a habit of disappearing." After he left, Maya stood behind the counter shaking. She had 2 business cards in her pocket now. One from Marco, one from Agent Davis. 2 different worlds, 2 different kinds of danger, and she was caught in the middle. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety. Every customer who walked in made Maya jump, wondering if they were really just looking for coffee or if they were part of whatever was happening around her. She kept checking the clock, dreading but also anticipating the evening when Marco had promised to return. At closing time, Jenny offered to stay and help clean up. But Maya sent her home early. She needed to be alone when Marco arrived. to figure out what she was going to do with all the information swirling in her head. Maya had just finished counting the register when she heard a soft knock on the back door. She knew it was Marco. Somehow, she could tell just from the sound. She opened the door to find him standing in the alley, still in his expensive suit but looking tired and worried. "Thank you for waiting," he said as he stepped inside. "We need to talk." Maya locked the door behind him and turned to face him. In the dim light of the closed cafe, Marco looked different somehow. More human. Less intimidating. "An FBI agent came to see me today," Maya said without preamble. Marco's expression darkened. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing," Maya said. "But he told me things about you. About your family." Marco was quiet for a long moment, then walked over to one of the cafe tables and sat down heavily. "What did he say?" "That your name is Marco Santangelo. That you're part of a crime family. That you're dangerous." Marco looked up at her, and Maya saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected. "Pain. All of that is true," he said quietly. Maya sat down across from him. "What does that mean?" "My name is Marco Santangelo. My family has been involved in certain activities for 3 generations. By birth, by blood, by tradition. I am part of that world." Marco paused, choosing his words carefully. "But I am not my father. I am not my grandfather. I don't want the same things they wanted." "Then why don't you just leave?" Marco laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't just leave a family like mine, Maya. You don't resign from being a Santangelo. You are born into it. And you die in it." Maya felt a chill run through her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that 3 days ago, my father died of a heart attack. I am now the head of the Santangelo family, whether I want to be or not. And that makes me a very powerful and very dangerous man, even if I never wanted to be either of those things." Maya stared at him, trying to process what he was telling her. "So what happens now?" "Now I have to make choices that will affect hundreds of people. I have to decide whether to continue my family's business the way it has always been done, or whether to try to change things from the inside. And what does any of this have to do with me?" Marco reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm and gentle. Not at all like what she would expect from a dangerous criminal. "Because from the moment I walked into this cafe 2 days ago, you are the only thing that has made sense to me. You are the only person who looks at me and sees Marco, not the Santangelo heir. You are the only normal, honest, real thing in my life." Maya felt her heart racing, but not from fear this time. "Marco, I know this is insane," he continued. "I know I have no right to involve you in my world, or to ask you for anything, but I need you to know that when I said you were mine yesterday, I didn't mean it as a threat or a command. I meant it as a promise." "What kind of promise?" "That if you'll let me, I will protect you from all of this. That I will keep you safe from my world while I figure out how to change it or escape from it. That no matter what choices I have to make as the head of my family, I will never let anything happen to you." Maya looked into his dark eyes and saw something she hadn't expected to find there. Love. Not the dangerous obsession she had feared, but real, honest love, from a man who was asking for something he probably didn't deserve but needed more than anything. "The FBI agent said people who get involved with your family disappear," Maya said softly. "That won't happen to you," Marco said firmly. "I won't let it." "How can you promise that when you just said you can't control everything in your world?" Marco stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark street. "Because I've made my choice, Maya. I've decided what kind of man I want to be, and what kind of leader I want to be for my family. It's going to be dangerous, and it's going to take time, but I'm going to change things, and I want you with me while I do it." Maya joined him at the window. "What if I say no? Then I'll make sure you're safe, and I'll never bother you again." Marco said simply. "You'll go back to your normal life, and I'll go back to mine. And if I say yes?" Marco turned to look at her, and Maya saw vulnerability in his expression that she was sure very few people had ever seen. "Then we figure this out together." You help me remember what it feels like to be human, and I'll show you what it feels like to be truly protected and cherished. Maya thought about Agent Davis's warning, about Mrs. Peterson's concern, about all the reasons she should walk away from this man and never look back. Then she thought about the electricity she felt when Marco touched her. The way he had looked at her like she was the most important thing in his world. The loneliness she had felt before he walked into the cafe. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Yes," Marco agreed. "It is. I could get hurt. Not if I can help it. You could change your mind about me." "Never." Maya took a deep breath and made the choice that would change her life forever. "Okay," she said. "But we do this my way. Slowly. Honestly. And if I ever feel like I'm in real danger, I'm out." Marco's face broke into the first genuine smile she had ever seen from him. "Deal." As Marco pulled her into his arms, Maya realized that Agent Davis had been wrong about one thing. She wasn't becoming an accomplice to a criminal. She was becoming a partner to a man who was trying to change his world, even if that world happened to be one of the most dangerous in the city. Outside the cafe window, Maya thought she saw a black sedan pull away from the curb. But she didn't care anymore. She had made her choice, and whatever came next, they would face it together. The coffee that had started everything might have been just $3, but what it had led to was priceless, and dangerous, and complicated, and absolutely worth it.